Wait, subscribe, like and comment to this channel for more romantic stories. Claire always woke before the sun, not because she had to, but because there was something sacred about those first minutes of stillness, when the sky was a deep slate blue and the world hadn't yet remembered its noise. Her fingers brushed the edge of the quilt she'd stitched herself years ago, a patchwork of soft memories, faded flannel, and the scent of lavender that lingered from a sachet tucked beneath the pillow. She turned slightly. Logan was still asleep. Beside her, his breathing was steady, slow. His hand lay open between them, fingers curved as if remembering the shape of hers, even in sleep. They had been together for 7 years. Not all those years had been soft and sweet. Some had been loud with slammed doors and silent dinners. Others were nothing but survival, through his mother's stroke, through the miscarriage. Through that year, Claire thought she might simply float away from everything she once believed. But somehow, they'd always found each other again. Last night, Logan had found her in the kitchen, standing barefoot on cold tile, tears silently rolling down her cheeks as she stared into the fridge without seeing anything. He didn't say a word. He simply walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, just held her, and Claire, in that quiet, breathless moment, remembered why she stayed, why she fought. Because love wasn't always fireworks. Sometimes it was just showing up when your partner forgot how to ask for help. Now, as she watched the first soft gold of morning filter through the curtain and land on Logan's cheekbone, Claire felt something shift inside her, something tender and trembling. She reached out and brushed a curl of hair from his forehead. He stirred, blinking open his eyes with the kind of softness that only belonged to someone completely known. "You're staring," he murmured, his voice gravel warm. She smiled. "You're beautiful when you sleep." "You say that like I'm not when I'm awake." "I'm being diplomatic," she teased. He laughed, a low, warm sound that vibrated through the bed. Then he reached for her, pulling her into him, chest to chest, heart to heart. It was moments like this, fragile, ordinary, perfect, that made up the architecture of their love. Claire rested her head on his chest, fingers tracing absent patterns on his skin. "Logan," she whispered, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "If everything changed tomorrow, would we still find our way back to each other?" His hand stilled on her back. The silence stretched just a second too long, and then he kissed the top of her head. "Even if I forgot who I was, I'd remember you." Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't know why. Maybe the gentleness in his voice. Maybe the knowing. Maybe because some part of her needed to hear that. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in warmth and words unspoken. Later that day, Claire went through an old box in the attic, looking for a picture frame. She was planning to frame the first photo they'd ever taken together, the one at the carnival, both of them drenched from the log flume ride, laughing like fools. Instead, she found something else, an envelope, cream-colored, sealed. Her name. On the front, in Logan's handwriting. It was dated 2 years ago. Her heart skipped. She sat down on the attic floor, suddenly breathless. The quiet air was thick with dust and the soft thrum of her pulse. With shaking hands, Claire opened the letter and read, "Claire, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you in person." She blinked. The attic spun. Her fingers tightened round the paper. The last line of the letter, before it abruptly cut off, read, "I never told you the whole truth about that night in Seattle." Claire froze. Her chest tightened. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Seattle? That was the night their whole relationship changed. The night he came home with bruised knuckles and haunted eyes. The night he said nothing happened. And she had believed him, until now. Claire read the sentence again, as if repetition would make the words mean something different. "I never told you the whole truth about that night in Seattle." Her breath came in short bursts now. The attic suddenly felt too small, like the air had thickened into something she had to fight just to breathe. She'd trusted him. That night, 2 years ago, had been the only time Logan came home with his shirt torn, jaw bruised and knuckles raw. She remembered the way he looked at her, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. He told her it was a stupid bar fight. Wrong place, wrong time. He brushed it off with a shrug and a tired kiss on her forehead. She hadn't pushed. She'd told herself love meant not needing every detail. But this letter said otherwise. Claire's hands were trembling as she pulled out her phone. She scrolled to his contact, hovered over it. What was she going to say? Hey, I found a letter you wrote 2 years ago confessing to something you never told me. How did you even begin to ask about a buried truth without unearthing everything else? She didn't call. Not yet. Instead, she folded the letter gently and tucked it into her sweater pocket. By the time Logan came home from the store that afternoon, Claire had made tea and was sitting on the back porch. The sun was low and soft, draping the garden. In amber light, he walked out to her, 2 bags of groceries in one arm and that easy, familiar smile on his face. You look like a woman with something on her mind, he said, setting the bags down on the bench. Claire looked at him and saw him, really saw him, the man she'd loved through every season. The man who held her when she broke and kissed her like he'd never known another life before her. The man who carried secrets in the quiet set of his jaw and the soft lies he told himself to protect her. Logan, she said, her voice soft, can I ask you something about Seattle? He froze, just for a second, but it was enough. His gaze darted to hers, unreadable. Seattle. The night you came home. Hurt. He licked his lips, looked out over the yard. I told you, it was a fight at a bar. You wrote a letter, Claire said gently, to me 2 years ago. I found it in the attic. Now he really froze. His hand dropped to his side. You weren't going to give it to me, were you? Logan sank slowly onto the bench beside her, exhaling like he'd been holding something in for too long. I didn't know if I'd ever need to, he said. At the time, I thought it would ruin us. Claire's heart thudded. What happened, Logan? He looked at her then, and his eyes were oceans of guilt and longing. I met someone that night. The words dropped between them like glass shattering. Claire's stomach twisted. You what? It wasn't what you think, he said quickly, reaching for her hand. I didn't cheat on you, I swear. But she knew me, knew about me. Things from before you and I even met. She pulled her hand back. He looked down. She showed me a picture, he said, voice quiet. A little boy, said he was mine. Claire couldn't speak. Her thoughts raced, colliding. Why didn't you tell me, she whispered. Because I didn't believe her. I still don't. At least not fully. I didn't want to drag you into something messy and maybe meaningless. Claire stood, arms folded tight across her chest. A child, Logan, that's not meaningless. I know, he said, pain thick in his voice. I was scared, and by the time I thought maybe I should look into it, it was too late. She was gone. I never saw her again. Silence fell like a blanket over the porch. Claire stared at him, trying to reconcile this man with the one who'd held her that morning like she was his whole world. I need time, she said finally. Logan nodded. I understand. She turned to walk back into the house, but just as she reached the screen door, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number, one new voicemail. Curious, heart pounding, she pressed play. A woman's voice. Hi, Claire. I know you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Logan and about a boy named Theo. The message ended with an address and a request. Please come alone. Claire stood still. The door creaked behind her as Logan came to stand in the doorway. Everything okay? He asked. Claire didn't turn around. She simply whispered, I think someone just changed everything. Claire sat in the driveway, the engine off but the key still in the ignition. The voicemail echoed in her head like a haunting melody. It's about Logan, and about a boy named Theo. Please come alone." She hadn't told Logan, not because she wanted to lie, but because something inside her said she needed to hear this woman's story first. Alone, clean, without his eyes on her, without his explanations. She looked down at the address scribbled on a scrap of paper. It was a part of town she hadn't been to in years, near the lake, where the old bed and breakfasts stood like tired, elegant ghosts. The house was small, white, with ivy creeping up the porch posts and a chime that jingled. When Claire stepped up the first step, she hesitated, then knocked. The door opened halfway. The woman on the other side looked to be in her mid-30s. Auburn hair, blue eyes that flicked immediately to Claire's face like she recognized her. "You came," she said. Claire nodded slowly. "You're Elise?" "Yes." She stepped back. "Please come in." Inside was a quiet world. Wicker chairs, soft throws, the scent of cinnamon and pine. A picture frame sat on the mantel. A young boy, maybe 5 or 6, with tousled curls and dimples too familiar to ignore. Claire's stomach clenched. "That's Theo?" she asked. Elise nodded. "He just turned 6. Claire's voice was barely a whisper. "And you believe Logan is his father?" "I don't believe," Elise said calmly. "I know." She handed Claire a small envelope. Inside, a copy of a paternity test. Logan's name in black and white. "Why now?" Claire asked. "Why come forward after all this time?" "Because," Elise said, tears forming in the corners of her eyes. "He's sick, Theo, and he needs his father's medical history. We need answers, and I don't want to lie to him anymore." Claire stood in silence, every part of her beginning to fracture. "Did Logan know?" "For certain." Elise hesitated. "He suspected. I told him when we met that night that I had reason to think. I tried to contact him later, but he never responded. I figured he just wanted to stay in the past." Claire felt the air around her stretch thin. She rose slowly. "Thank you for telling me. I don't know what happens now." Elise looked down. "Neither do I." Claire drove home in silence. The house was quiet when she stepped inside. Logan wasn't in the kitchen or the bedroom. She called his name once. No answer. Her heart picked up speed. She walked into his study. There on his desk lay his wallet, keys, and a plane ticket, one way to Seattle. That day. Departure in 45 minutes. Claire drove like she was chasing ghosts. The highway shimmered under the afternoon sun, but her hands were cold on the wheel. She weaved between lanes, watching the clock. On the dash ticked down, every second a heartbeat she couldn't get back. He was running, not from her, not really. He was running from himself, from the truth he'd buried 2 years ago, from the child he hadn't been ready to face. But Claire was done standing still in the silence he left behind. She swerved into the departures lane of the small regional airport, barely throwing the car into park before bolting through the glass doors. Her shoes echoed down the corridor as she scanned the overhead monitors. Seattle, gate B12, now boarding. She ran. Security was a blur, her voice cracking as she begged the agent to let her through, to page him, to stop him. A kind older woman took one look at her tear-streaked face and made a call. Within minutes, a gate agent was dialing overhead. "Logan West. Please report to gate B12. Logan West." She waited. People passed. Families hugged. Children laughed. A soldier kissed his wife goodbye, but Logan didn't come. Claire's knees buckled slightly as she leaned against the wall near the gate, trying to stay upright, trying to breathe, and then, "Claire," his voice. Behind her. She turned. Logan stood there, out of breath, his bag slung over one shoulder. His eyes searched hers like a man walking back from the edge of something final. "You weren't going to say goodbye?" she asked, her voice barely holding together. "I wasn't sure you'd want one." "Where were you going?" "To find Theo, to face what I should have faced 2 years ago." I thought, if I handled it, if I cleaned it up without involving you, I could still protect what we have. Claire stepped closer. What we have doesn't need protecting. It needs truth. He lowered his eyes. I know. I was trying to carry the weight alone. You forgot I was built to carry with you. They stood there, suspended in a moment neither of them knew how to end. Then Logan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I was going to mail this from Seattle, he said. But it's meant for you now. Claire unfolded the page, a drawing of a boy, curly hair, bright smile, done in Logan's familiar sketching style. He'd drawn her 1,000 love notes over the years, but never one like this. I met him once, Logan said quietly. He doesn't know who I am, but I knew who he was the second I saw him. Claire swallowed a knot in her throat. So, what now? She whispered. He looked at her. I don't know, he said honestly. But I don't want to find out without you. A beat passed. She nodded, and just as he reached for her hand, her phone buzzed. It was Elise. One text. Claire. I'm sorry to do this over message, but Theo's missing. He ran off an hour ago. I thought he was in the backyard. I can't find him anywhere. Claire gasped. Logan's hand fell away. They looked at each other, eyes wide, breath frozen, and then they both turned toward the exit. By the time Claire and Logan reached Elise's house, the sky had turned a bruised purple, half dusk, half storm. The wind stirred the ivy on the porch like restless fingers. Elise stood in the yard, frantic, eyes swollen from crying, voice hoarse from calling out the name she hadn't stopped saying for over an hour. The gate was open, she choked out. He knows not to go past the trees, but he was upset. He was quiet all morning. I thought maybe he... Logan didn't wait to hear more. He took off toward the woods behind the house. Claire ran after him. They searched through branches and undergrowth, calling out into the deep green silence. Theo! Buddy! It's Logan. Please answer me. Their voices echoed, desperate. Then a rustle. Logan froze. Did you hear that? They turned. There, beneath an old weeping willow near the edge of a creek, sat a small boy, knees hugged to his chest, head resting on them. Alone, silent. Claire let out a sound between a sob and a laugh. Logan knelt slowly. Theo, he said. Gentle. Hey, buddy. The boy looked up, big, scared blue eyes. Who are you? He whispered. Logan smiled, soft and trembling. I'm someone who should have been here sooner, Theo frowned. Did my mom send you? No, Logan said. I came because I wanted to. Theo stared at him for a long time. Are you the man from the picture on the fridge? Claire felt her throat tighten. Logan nodded. Yeah, that's me. Theo stood slowly, walked forward, close, so close, then reached out and touched Logan's face with a small, curious hand. You have my nose, he said. Logan laughed. A broken, beautiful sound. Then Theo wrapped his arms around him without another word, and Logan fell apart, right there, holding his son. Hours later, the house was warm again. Elise had thanked Claire with tears in her eyes and whispered, He needs both of you. Logan tucked Theo into bed after reading him a story about a brave little owl who always found his way home. Claire stood in the doorway, watching it all unfold. The boy who didn't know his father and the man learning how to be one in real time. Later, after Theo was asleep, Logan and Claire stepped onto the back porch. The stars were out now, faint and flickering like far away. Hopes finally daring to be seen. Claire leaned her head on his shoulder. Did you mean it? She asked softly. When you said you didn't want to find out what's next without me. Logan turned to her. Every word. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I, but I love you more. He took her hand, squeezed it. Do you think there's a way to start over without starting from scratch? She looked up at him. Yes, I think it's called growing forward. They stood like that for a while, quiet, close, grounded in something deeper than a promise, a choice. Not to forget, but to continue. Together. Epilogue. 3 months later, a photo sat on Clare and Logan's mantle. It was of 3 people, Clare, Logan, and a small boy with a mischievous smile and his father's nose, holding a hand-drawn sign that said, "Home isn't a place, it's a decision. We choose each other." And every morning after that, before the sun rose, Clare still woke early. But now there were 2 sets of footsteps padding into the kitchen for breakfast, and 3 hearts that knew. Sometimes love breaks you open, so it can let more in. Wait, subscribe, like, and comment to this channel for more romantic stories.